Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dr. Archer's Lectures. Today, we're talking about the law of demand, the buyer side of that interaction, that business transaction. But it all goes back to things that we were talking about when we were together the last time. Remember that we were discussing Adam Smith ideas about the invisible hand? It is price that tells us what people want and signals to the market how to use our finite resources. We've studied that all resources, all factors of production are scarce in that they're finite. There's never enough to go around to satisfy all desired uses. And so to decide what we're going to make, how we're going to make it, and for whom we're going to make it, the key questions of economics, we use prices to signal those resource allocations. We make what people want based on what they're willing to buy and sell at various prices. Every transaction requires both a buyer and a seller, and it requires that each of them is acting in their own self-interest. Buyers want to buy at the lowest possible price, and sellers want to sell at the highest possible price. So today, in this video, we're going to look only at the buyer's side. In economics, we call it demand. We're looking at demand. What do buyers want? Buyers want to buy at the lowest price possible. And so, accordingly, the law of demand says, as the price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. And if you think about that for a second, that's about as intuitive as anything could ever be. If my great pair of shoes that I love is normally $100, and I go to the mall and I find them on sale for $50, woohoo, 2 pairs, right? On the other hand, if I go to the mall and find that the price has gone up to $150, maybe I don't need those shoes as much as I thought I did. As price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. Now, the law of demand has 2 other conditions. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down in a given time period. Over time, things adjust, things change. But in a given time period, as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. And the other piece of this is a little Latin phrase that we have here. This is pronounced ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means simply all else equal. It means the only thing we're changing is just the price. Just the price. Everything else stays the same. And so, as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down, provided that we're in a particular time frame and provided that everything else stays the same. One more thing you need to notice about the law of demand. It is price that's driving the bus. Price goes up, and that causes quantity demanded to go down, never the other way around. You'll never find quantity changing and that causing a change in price. So price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. Is quantity demanded the same as demand? No. And we'll talk about that as this video goes on. But for right now, just be aware of the language. What we're talking about here is quantity demanded, which is not the same as demand. Quantity demanded. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. So let's see how that plays out. Here we have Helen's demand curve for lattes. And we can see that this follows the law of demand perfectly. If they're giving away the lattes, Helen will have 16 of them. Whoa, that's a lot of latte. As the price goes up, her demand for lattes keeps decreasing. At $1, she only wants 14. At $2, she only wants 12. At $3, she only wants 10. All the way up to at $6, she's clear down to 4. So this reflects the law of demand. As price changes, as price goes up, that causes quantity demanded to go down. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. So let's see what that would look like on a graph. First of all, when you graph a demand curve, you're always going to put price on the vertical axis over here, and you're going to put quantity going out this way. And the range of values that you have here is going to reflect the range of values that you see in the demand table, right? The demand schedule. So the demand schedule, the price goes up to $6. So here we start at 0 and we go up to 6. The quantity side goes up to 16. So on the quantity axis, we start at 0 and we go out to 16, and 16 is kind of back here behind this quantity deal. So first point, at 0 price, if we're giving them away, Helen wants 16 of them. So the price is 0, so we don't move up at all. We're right on this horizontal axis. But we go all the way across then, all the way across to 16, and this is our point. Our next point is price of $1, quantity of 14. So on the vertical axis, we go up to $1, and then we go over to 14, and this is our second point. We go up to reflect the price, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because price is on this vertical axis. We go over to reflect the quantity from 4 up to 16, because quantity is on this horizontal axis. And where the two intersect, $1 intersects with the 14 quantity, that's where our point goes. So our next point, $2, we go up to $2 and then over to 12, and that's where our point is. $3, up to $3, over to 10, this is where our point goes. 4, up to $4, over to 8, this is where the point goes. 5 and 6. So now we have all these points. All these points. Each one of these points represents a unique combination of price and quantity. When you change the price, you change the quantity demanded. When we go from $1 to $2, her quantity changes from 14 to 12. Each point is a unique combination of price and quantity. Put them all together, and you have yourself a demand curve right there. Notice that the demand curve is downward sloping. When the price is high, it's going to be high on this vertical axis. Then quantity demanded is low. And so it's not going to go very far over on this horizontal axis. So it starts high on the left. But as price comes down, quantity demanded goes up. So we move down and to the right with each of these points. And so the demand curve will always be downward sloping. Every point on here represents a unique combination of price and quantity. These are the named points, and they appear in our schedule, but in fact, there are other points in between here that are not named. All of them, all of those myriad of points represents a unique combination of price and quantity. So this is Helen's demand. What if you had more than one person in this market? What if we wanted to look at not just Helen, but what if we wanted to look at the city or all of the customers for this particular Starbucks or whatever kind of store this is? Then you would look at market demand. Market demand is found like this. We have Helen's demand. We see it here. And these are the same numbers that we saw in the previous slide on the demand schedule. But now we have a second participant. We have Ken as well. And here's how many he would demand at each of the various prices. So if Helen's going to demand 16 when we're giving them away, and Ken is going to demand 8 when we're giving them away, what's your market demand? 24, right? You simply add them together. How about when we go to $1? Helen's demand is 7. Helen's demand is 14, sorry. Ken's demand is 7. What's your market demand? 21. And you would fill them in the same way all the way down. So if you have more than one market participant, more than one buyer, which is almost always the case, then you would add together the individual demands for all the individual buyers to come up with the market demand. All of this together, by the way, is demand. Each of these values is quantity demanded, and it's paired. It's linked to a particular price. It's that combination of price and quantity, and each one is unique. And we understand that when you change the price, you change the quantity. You move from 24 to 21 to 18 to 15. So here we are again. We have this demand curve. And we know that there's only one way to change the quantity demanded. There's only one way to change the quantity demanded, and that's to change the price. Every single point on this line is a unique combination of quantity and price. And the only way to change the quantity is to change the price. And when we do that, we move from one point to another along this line. When we move from $6 to $5, our quantity changes from, looks like 6 to 9, and so on and so forth. Price changes, and that changes quantity demanded. Remember the law of demand we talked about? Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down in a given time frame, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus. Everything else held equal. Everything else equal. Nothing changes but the price. That's when you get changes in quantity demanded. You move from one point to another along this demand curve. But we know that sometimes other things change. Price isn't the only thing that changes. So when something other than price changes, what happens? Well, when something other than price changes, you get a whole new demand curve where quantity demanded at every price point is different than it was before. So if price changes, we have movement up and down this single demand curve, just like that. Movement up and down this single demand curve. When price goes from $6 to $3 to $5 to $2, then quantity changes in response to that, and we just move up and down this demand curve. But what if consumer tastes change? What if income changes? What if expectations change? These are all examples of determinants of demand. And the other ones are the price of substitutes and the number of buyers. And so any of these can change and can cause a shift in demand. A shift in demand means we're going to get a whole new demand curve where quantity is different than it was before. That's a shift in demand, and that's caused by any of these non-price determinants, changes in any of these. So if customers' income changes, if they don't have any money anymore, they might buy fewer lattes, you think? What if their expectations change? What if they think they're going to lose their job? They might already stop buying lattes as though they don't have money, even though it hasn't happened yet. What if the number of buyers changes? Well, if a whole bunch of new people move into the area, now you have a lot more buyers. The market demand is going to change. Remember that market demand was the total of all the individual demands. And so if you have more individuals, you're going to have more demand overall. What about the price of substitutes? Remember when, maybe you don't, it's been a number of years ago now, like maybe 5 years ago, but McDonald's came into the market for specialty coffees. And for a while, they really competed against Starbucks. That might cause a shift in demand for Starbucks because now people have the option to go get a latte at McDonald's instead. And finally, consumer preferences. Maybe if it's summer in Arizona, people really don't want a latte or any of those heavy drinks, and especially not the hot drinks. And so this would cause a shift in demand. Any of these non-price determinants of demand, if any of these change, you will see a shift in demand where you get a whole new demand curve where quantity demanded is different, not at one price point, but at every price point. The only variable that can change quantity demanded is price. If price changes, we have a change in quantity demanded, and you'll see that as movement up and down this single demand curve. I hope that makes sense for you, and I hope you found this lecture helpful. I look forward to seeing you next time on Dr. Archer's Lectures when we're going to discuss the seller's side of this transaction. Thanks so much. See you soon.